Let's bring up the action editor, select walk. We need to edit the transition and latch curves, so we'll select those, and some useful curves from the root node T, X, R, Y and RZ will give us an indication of what's going on. Now, if we switch off IK just for the moment and switch on solo, we can see our agent walking along. What I want to do is figure out what the start and end pose of our walking actions is. So if we scrub the action here with the right mouse, we can see that the walk starts and ends with the left foot down and the knees roughly parallel. So that's our transition node or transition pose for any actions that are starting or ending with a walk. And we'll just Alt drag the start of the action to the very beginning. Notice it'll take the transition curve along with it because the transition curve needs to start at the start of the action. And the latch curve, we want that to go low right towards the end there, almost at the very end, just so that it's okay to transition to another action when this goes low, which is the end of the action. Right, so that's walk setup. Let's have a look at shift. Well, shift, it comes from stand and goes to stand, so we don't really need to worry about the timing there because that's just going to look good no matter what we do with it. So we can start it at the very beginning. Let's just have a look and see how that plays out. It's just a little bit of a weight shift there, and when he comes back to a stand, he's sort of settled into a stand at the end, we can allow him to transition out around about there somewhere by bringing the end of the latch curve down about there. Right, so that's shift done. Stand. Well, again, it's safe to start at the very beginning. And it's a long action, so we've got to squeeze that transition curve right into the beginning there. In fact, it's probably okay to transition out about there because he doesn't really need to complete any motion in this action for it to be useful. So we can just come straight out of it. So that means the latch low is happening near the beginning of stand. And all this action here is unlikely to be seen unless he just happens to want to stand there for a long time. Okay, so that's stand. Stand to walk, a little trickier. The beginning, so that he can start walking quite quickly, we don't want him standing in this action for too long. So we'll find a point where he's just starting to move a little bit. Let's look at him side on. You see just a little bit of a lean happening, so that's a good place to start. Okay, now the walk. We've got to sync this up with the walk, so this is where we need to take notice of the left foot down, knees about parallel. So it's around there somewhere. About there. So we want to put our latch down about there. That should sync up nicely. And we'll give it a bit of a smoother transition. Oh, it's coming from a stand. That'll do. Okay, so we've done the walk. Walk 45s we don't need to worry about because they're blends. That means that they don't get transitioned to or from. They just blend on top of the walk. So we don't need any timing curves for those. Walk to stand L. Let's have a look at that one. Now, it's coming from walk, so that means it's got to start at left foot down pose, which is around there somewhere. Okay, so that's where we want to start it. Alt left drag. And where can we safely come out of it? Well, it looks like he's standing quite happy about there, and that's almost where we've got our latch off anyway. We'll put it about there somewhere. Now, there's one more action, which is walk to stand R, so that he can actually transition out of a walk and go to a stand halfway through his cycle. We have a different action here, which transitions halfway through his walk cycle. That means the right foot is going to be down. So that's where this action needs to start. And let's try and find where that happens. probably about there somewhere. Start action about there. And we want to end it when he's sort of settled into his stand, which is about there. Good. Okay, now we've got rough timing curves for all of our actions, so they should transition nicely into each other. How do we determine whether they do? Okay, well, let's just move the action editor out of the way a little bit. View playbacks will make things a bit easier. We can see which action is going at a time. And let's bring up the sequencer. Okay, now we can build up a little sequence of actions by clicking on the left here and then clicking on append. So we'll go stand, stand to walk, walk, walk to stand L. And now the sequencer will get our agent to cycle through those actions, but first we have to switch off solo. And we might as well switch on IK. And I'm going to go Alt-I so that we can see the IK indicators. Okay, we can see here from the playback view that he is in fact going through several actions here, and we can watch the activation of those actions in the sequencer as well. If we want to edit any of those actions, we just middle click on an action and it'll come up in the action editor, and then we can adjust the timing curves a little. And we can reset the sequencer to any point by just clicking on that action, and then it'll start from that action. So if we wanted to keep seeing the transition between stand and stand to walk, we can just keep clicking on it. If you're going to do that, it pays to switch off the IK so that the feet are going to get reset. But switching off the IK doesn't affect the sequencer. Alright. Okay, so we don't really need to adjust these curves because it looks like they all look good. But one thing we haven't checked is walk to stand R. Well, first what we've got to do is add another latch low to our walk, because right now it only goes low at the end, which means no action can occur in the middle. We can't transition to another action in the middle of walk, which is what we want to be able to do. So let's go hit the insert key and then click, and hit the insert key again and click again, and now we should have two curves here, 2 points here. Well, do we have two? No, we have one. I didn't hit it. Right. Okay. Right, and we can use the 0 and 1 keys to set the points to 0 or 1 appropriately. And we want this to be happening at about the middle of our action. So just to recap, to insert these points, we hit the insert key, click on the curve, and then we can use 0 and 1 if we want to set them to 0 and 1. Okay, that's a pretty good time to be transitioning out in the middle of our walk. So let's just take walk to stand L out of the sequencer here and append walk to stand R. And let's see how that goes. So stand, stand to walk, walk, and walk to stand R. That looks pretty good. So we've now got all of the transition and latch curves set up so that this agent can execute all of these actions in sequence one after another.